The sun beat down on Harmony Gulch, baking the dusty main street to a crisp. It was a town like any other in the West, a collection of wooden buildings huddled together against the vastness of the plains. The air hung heavy with the scent of dry earth and horses. A tumbleweed danced across the road, a lonely traveler in a lonely land. Peter Cole rode into town on his trusty steed, a chestnut mare named Belle. Peter was a man of quiet strength, his face weathered by years of working the land. His eyes, though, held a kindness that belied his rugged exterior. He wore a simple denim shirt and sturdy trousers, his worn leather boots scuffed from countless miles. He came to Harmony Gulch needing supplies, but something felt different about the town today. A strange energy pulsed in the air, a mix of anticipation and unease. He dismounted in front of the general store, the familiar creak of the saddle a comforting sound. As he tied Belle to the hitching post, he noticed a crowd gathering near the center of town. Curiosity piqued. He wandered over, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust. The townsfolk were clustered around a makeshift stage, their faces a mixture of excitement and grim expectation. Banners flapped in the hot wind, advertising an auction. But this wasn't an auction of cattle or land. This was something far more disturbing. As Peter pushed his way through the crowd, the disturbing nature of the auction became horrifyingly clear. 3 young women stood on the raised platform, their faces etched with fear and resignation. They were dressed in simple, worn dresses that did little to hide their vulnerability. The auctioneer, a stout man with a booming voice and a cruel smile, gestured towards them with a flourish. "Ladies and gentlemen," he bellowed, "we have here 3 fine prospects, strong, healthy, and ready to serve. Who'll start the bidding?" The crowd responded with a mix of leers and crude jokes. Peter felt a knot of anger tighten in his stomach. These weren't prospects, they were people, human beings treated like livestock. The auctioneer began to describe the girls as if they were possessions, their ages, their skills, or lack thereof, their physical attributes. He spoke of them as if they had no say in their own lives. One of the girls, the youngest, couldn't have been more than 15. Her eyes were wide with terror, and she trembled visibly. Another, a bit older, stared straight ahead, her face a mask of defiance, though Peter could see the pain hidden beneath. The third looked defeated, her shoulders slumped, her gaze fixed on the ground. The bidding began, a callous exchange of money and power. Men in the crowd called out numbers, their voices filled with a disturbing mix of greed and lust. Peter watched in disbelief as the girls were bartered and haggled over, their worth reduced to a price. He couldn't stand it any longer. The casual cruelty of the scene, the blatant disregard for the girls' humanity, filled him with a burning rage. He knew he had to do something, anything, to stop this from happening. He balled his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. He wouldn't let these girls be sold like cattle. He just couldn't. Without hesitation, Peter raised his hand. $50, he called out, his voice clear and strong, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. The auctioneer paused, surprised. "Well, now, we have a new bidder. $50 from the gentleman in the back." He looked Peter up and down, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. The bidding continued, but Peter was determined. He matched every offer, his jaw set, his gaze unwavering. The price climbed higher and higher, exceeding what any of the other men seemed willing to pay. They began to drop out, muttering and grumbling, their eyes filled with resentment. Finally, only Peter remained. $150, the auctioneer announced, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do I hear any more?" "Going once, going twice." He paused, looking pointedly at the remaining men. "Sold to the gentleman in the back for $150. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. They stared at Peter, a mixture of shock and disbelief on their faces. He strode forward, his boots thudding on the wooden stage. He paid the auctioneer the money, his eyes never leaving the girls. "What do you think you're doing, Cole?" The auctioneer sneered, counting the money. "Buying yourself some company." Peter fixed him with a steely gaze. "These women are not property. They are people, and I'm offering them a home, a safe place to live. Not ownership." He turned to the girls, his voice softening. You're free to come with me, if you choose. I have a ranch outside of town. You'll have food, shelter, and my protection. You won't be forced to do anything you don't want to do. The girls looked at him, their eyes wide with hope and disbelief. The youngest one started to cry softly. The defiant one lowered her gaze, her expression softening. The defeated one finally lifted her head, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. We'll go with you, the defiant one said, her voice barely a whisper. Peter nodded. Good. Let's get you out of here. He helped them down from the stage, ignoring the angry stares of the crowd. As they walked away, he could feel their eyes on his back, burning with resentment and disapproval. He knew he had made an enemy of the town, but he didn't care. He had done what he believed was right, and that was all that mattered. The ride back to Peter's ranch was silent. The girls, still shaken, huddled together in the back of the wagon, their eyes darting nervously at the passing landscape. Peter drove with a steady hand, giving them space and time to process what had happened. He glanced back occasionally, offering a reassuring smile. As they approached the ranch, a sprawling collection of buildings nestled in a valley, the girls' apprehension seemed to grow. This was a new world, a new life, and they had no idea what to expect. Peter's two sons, Caleb and Ethan, were waiting for them in the yard. Caleb, the elder, was tall and muscular, with a serious demeanor. Ethan, younger and more easygoing, had a friendly smile and a twinkle in his eye. Peter stopped the wagon and turned to the girls. This is it, he said gently. Welcome to your new home. He introduced his sons, trying to ease the tension. Caleb, Ethan, this is... Well, I haven't even asked your names. The defiant girl spoke first. I'm Sada. The youngest one, wiping her eyes, whispered, I'm Lily. The defeated one hesitated, then said quietly, My name is Rose. Peter nodded. Welcome, Sarah, Lily, and Rose. Caleb, Ethan, can you help the ladies with their things? The sons quickly jumped into action, assisting the girls with their meager belongings. Sarah carried a small, worn leather bag. Lily clutched a tattered doll. Rose had only a small wooden box. As they entered the main house, a simple but comfortable structure, the girls looked around in awe. It was clean and well-maintained, with a large fireplace and sturdy furniture. The smell of baking bread filled the air, a comforting aroma that helped to dispel some of their anxiety. We'll get you settled in, Peter said. There are rooms upstairs. You can choose whichever ones you like. He paused. And don't worry, you're safe here. The girls exchanged glances, a glimmer of hope flickering in their eyes. Maybe, just maybe, they had found a place where they could finally be free. Maybe they had found a home. The first few days at the ranch were a blur of new experiences and quiet adjustments. Each of the girls carried their own burdens from the past, and their personalities reflected their struggles. Sarah, the oldest at 17, was fiercely independent and guarded. She had learned to rely on herself and trusted no one easily. She was quick-witted and observant, always assessing her surroundings. She helped Caleb with the chores, showing a surprising aptitude for working with the horses. But she kept her emotions hidden, afraid to show any vulnerability. Her greatest fear was that she would be betrayed again. Lily, the youngest at 15, was timid and withdrawn. The auction had terrified her, and she clung to her doll for comfort. She was easily startled and often burst into tears at the slightest provocation. Ethan, with his gentle nature, took it upon himself to look after her. He would tell her stories, show her the animals, and patiently coax her out of her shell. Her greatest fear was that she would never feel safe again. Rose, in the middle at 16, was quiet and introspective. She carried a sadness that seemed to weigh her down. She had a talent for drawing and spent hours sketching in her notebook. She helped with the cooking, finding solace in the simple act of preparing food. She was grateful for Peter's kindness, but struggled to believe that she deserved it. Her greatest fear was that her past would catch up with her. Peter understood that it would take time for the girls to heal. He gave them space to adjust, offering support and encouragement without being intrusive. He made it clear that they were free to leave whenever they wanted, but he hoped they would choose to stay. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was determined to create a home where Sarah, Lily, and Rose could finally find peace and happiness. He saw their potential, their strength, and their resilience, and he believed that, with time and love, they could overcome their fears and build a new life for themselves. The ranch, once just a home for him and his sons, was slowly becoming a sanctuary for them all. Back in Harmony Gulch, Peter's actions had stirred up a hornet's nest of gossip and prejudice. The townsfolk, a close-knit community resistant to outsiders, saw Peter's compassion as a threat to their established way of life. Whispers and rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by ignorance and fear. He bought those girls for no good reason, some would say, their voices laced with suspicion. He's probably got some ulterior motive. Others were more blatant in their disapproval. Those girls are nothing but trouble. They don't belong here. The women of the town, especially, were quick to judge. They saw Sarah, Lily, and Rose as a disruption to their social order, fearing that the girls would somehow corrupt their sons and husbands. They ostracized Peter whenever he came to town for supplies, refusing to make eye contact or acknowledge his presence. The general store owner, a man named Jedediah, was particularly vocal in his disapproval. He refused to serve Peter, claiming that he didn't want that kind in his store. He even started spreading lies about the girls, exaggerating their past, and painting them as immoral and dangerous. The children of the town, influenced by their parents' prejudice, began to taunt the girls whenever they ventured near the town limits. They would shout insults, throw stones, and make cruel jokes. The tension in Harmony Gulch was palpable. The town, once a place of relative peace and quiet, was now simmering with resentment and hostility. Peter knew that he had made a stand for what he believed in, but he also understood that his actions had consequences. He worried about the safety of the girls and his sons. He knew that the townspeople were capable of anything. He just hoped that he could protect them from the storm that was brewing. The sense of unease grew stronger with each passing day, casting a dark shadow over the small town and threatening to erupt into something far more dangerous. Despite the growing animosity from Harmony Gulch, Peter and his sons were determined to make the ranch a true home for Sarah, Lily, and Rose. They understood that building trust and security would take time and effort, but they were committed to providing a safe and welcoming environment. Peter started by making sure the girls had everything they needed. He bought them new clothes, sturdy boots, and comfortable beds. He stocked the pantry with their favorite foods and encouraged them to decorate their rooms as they pleased. He even built a small garden where Rose could grow flowers and herbs. Caleb, though initially reserved, showed his kindness through actions. He taught Sarah how to ride a horse, patiently guiding her and praising her progress. He helped her with the chores, treating her as an equal and respecting her opinions. He even carved a small wooden horse for Lily, knowing how much she loved animals. Ethan, with his easygoing charm, focused on making Lily feel safe and comfortable. He spent hours playing games with her, telling her stories, and showing her the wonders of the natural world. He taught her how to fish in a creek and how to identify different types of birds. He always made sure she had her doll close by, offering a comforting presence whenever she felt scared. Peter made it a point to include the girls in all aspects of ranch life. They helped with the cooking, the cleaning, and the tending of the animals. He taught them how to read and write, encouraging them to pursue their interests and develop their talents. He treated them with respect and dignity, always listening to their concerns and valuing their opinions. In the evenings, they would gather around the fireplace, sharing stories and laughter. Peter would tell tales of his past, of his adventures in the West, and of the importance of family and community. The girls would share their own stories, slowly opening up and revealing their hopes and dreams. The ranch became a haven, a place where they could escape the prejudice and hostility of Harmony Gulch. It was a place where they could be themselves, where they could feel safe, and where they could finally begin to heal. The bond between Peter, his sons, and the girls grew stronger with each passing day, forging a new kind of family, one built on love, respect, and understanding. The walls of the ranch seemed to protect them, at least for now, from the storm that raged outside. One sunny afternoon, Lily was sitting by the creek, clutching her doll and staring into the water. She was still easily frightened and rarely ventured far from the house. Ethan, noticing her solitude, approached cautiously. He sat down beside her, not saying a word, just offering a quiet presence. After a few minutes, Lily looked up at him, her eyes filled with sadness. "I miss my mama," she whispered. Ethan nodded, understanding. "I miss mine too," he said softly. "She used to tell me stories about the stars." Lily's eyes widened. "I like stories about the stars," she said. Ethan smiled. "Then I'll tell you one," he said. He launched into a tale of brave constellations and shimmering galaxies, his voice gentle and soothing. As he spoke, Lily's grip on her doll loosened, and a small smile appeared on her face. She started to ask questions, her curiosity piqued. For the first time since the auction, she seemed to forget her fear, lost in the magic of Ethan's story. From that day on, Lily sought out Ethan's company, finding solace and friendship in his kind heart. Another time, Sarah was helping Caleb mend a fence. She had been working alongside him for weeks, learning the ins and outs of ranch life. She was strong and capable, but still hesitant to let her guard down. As they worked, a sudden thunderstorm rolled in, catching them off guard. They raced back to the barn, seeking shelter from the downpour. Inside the barn, the air was thick with the smell of hay and horses. Sarah shivered, partly from the cold and partly from the memory of past storms that had brought only hardship and fear. Caleb noticed her discomfort, and without a word, he draped his jacket around her shoulders. Sarah looked up at him, surprised. "I'm okay," she said, trying to shrug it off. Caleb just smiled. "I know, but you'll be warmer." As they stood there, listening to the rain pound against the roof, Sarah felt a warmth spread through her, a warmth that had nothing to do with the jacket. It was the warmth of acceptance, of belonging, of finally feeling safe. She looked at Caleb, his eyes filled with genuine concern, and for the first time, she allowed herself to trust someone. A small smile played on her lips. The storm raged outside, but inside the barn, a different kind of storm was calming, a storm of fear and mistrust that had haunted Sarah for far too long. These small moments of kindness and connection were slowly weaving a tapestry of trust and love, transforming the ranch into a true home for them all. The fragile peace at the ranch was shattered as the animosity from Harmony Gulch escalated. The townsfolk, emboldened by their collective disapproval, began to take more direct action against Peter and the girls. One morning, Peter awoke to find his fences torn down and his cattle scattered. It was a clear message. He was not welcome. He spent the day with Caleb and Ethan, repairing the damage, their faces grim with determination. They knew this was just the beginning. Another night, someone set fire to the small garden that Rose had lovingly tended. The flames licked at the wooden fence, threatening to spread to the barn. Peter and his sons managed to extinguish the fire before it caused serious damage. But the message was clear. The townspeople were targeting the girls directly. Rose was devastated, her dreams of a beautiful garden reduced to ashes. The ostracization intensified. Peter could no longer buy supplies in Harmony Gulch. He had to travel to a neighboring town, a long and arduous journey that took him away from the ranch for days at a time. The girls were afraid to leave the ranch, knowing that they would face ridicule and harassment. One day, Lily ventured into town to buy some thread for her doll. A group of children surrounded her, taunting her and calling her names. They ripped her doll, tearing its fabric and stuffing scattering across the dusty street. Lily ran back to the ranch, sobbing uncontrollably, her trust in the world shattered once again. Even the church, once a place of solace and community, turned its back on Peter and the girls. The preacher, influenced by the town's prejudice, refused to allow them to attend services, claiming that they were sinners and a bad influence on the congregation. The escalating animosity created a climate of fear and uncertainty at the ranch. Peter knew that he had to do something to protect the girls, but he didn't know what. He felt trapped between his commitment to doing what was right and his responsibility to keep his family safe. The storm was no longer brewing. It was raging, threatening to consume everything in its path. The idyllic haven they had created was now under siege, and the future looked bleak. The inevitable confrontation arrived on a cold, gray morning. A group of townsfolk, led by Jedediah, the general store owner, rode up to the ranch, their faces grim and determined. They were armed with rifles and shotguns, their eyes filled with hatred. Peter, Caleb, and Ethan stood their ground in front of the house, their own rifles held at the ready. Sarah, Lily, and Rose huddled inside, their faces pale with fear. "Cole," Jedediah shouted, his voice filled with venom. "We've come to take back what's ours. Those girls don't belong here. They're a stain on this town." Peter stood tall, his voice calm but firm. "These women are under my protection. They're not going anywhere." "You can't protect them forever, Cole," Jedediah retorted. "We're giving you one last chance. Hand them over, and we'll let you go." "I won't betray them," Peter said, his grip tightening on his rifle. "They're my family now," Jedediah sneered. "So be it." He raised his rifle, and the other townsfolk followed suit. The air crackled with tension. A shot rang out, shattering the silence. It was unclear who fired first, but the sound unleashed a torrent of violence. Bullets whizzed through the air, kicking up dust and splintering wood. Peter, Caleb, and Ethan returned fire, defending their home and their loved ones. The confrontation was brutal and chaotic. Men fell to the ground, wounded or dead. The girls screamed inside the house, their terror reaching a fever pitch. Peter fought with a ferocity he didn't know he possessed, protecting his sons and the women he had come to care for so deeply. Caleb and Ethan fought bravely, their youthful energy fueled by righteous anger. Sarah, defying her fear, grabbed a rifle and joined the fight, her aim surprisingly accurate. Even Lily, driven by a primal instinct to protect her new family, helped to reload the rifles, her small hands moving with surprising speed. The standoff lasted for what seemed like an eternity. Finally, as the sun began to set, the townsfolk, weary and outnumbered, began to retreat. Jedediah, his face contorted with rage, fired one last shot before turning his horse and riding away. The ranch was a scene of devastation. The house was riddled with bullet holes, the garden was trampled, and the air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and blood. But they had survived. They had stood their ground and defended their home. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The hatred and prejudice of Harmony Gulch still simmered beneath the surface, threatening to erupt again at any moment. In the aftermath of the battle, as they tended to their wounds and surveyed the damage, Peter knew he couldn't remain silent any longer. He had to make the town understand why he had done what he had done. He owed it to Sarah, Lily, and Rose, and he owed it to himself. The next day, despite the risks, Peter rode into Harmony Gulch. He found the town quiet and subdued, the townsfolk avoiding his gaze. He rode straight to the center of town and dismounted in front of the general store, the same spot where he had first witnessed the auction. He stood tall, his voice ringing out clear and strong. "I know what you all think of me," he began, his eyes sweeping over the crowd that had slowly gathered. "You think I'm a fool, a troublemaker, a man who's gone against everything you believe in." He paused, taking a deep breath. "But I want you to understand why I did what I did. I saw those girls being treated like property, like animals, and I couldn't stand by and let it happen. They are human beings with feelings and dreams, just like you and me." He continued, his voice filled with passion. "I offered them a home, a safe place to live, because that's what they deserved. They deserved to be treated with kindness and respect. They deserved to be loved." He looked around at the faces in the crowd, some hostile, some curious, some simply confused. "I know you don't understand. You're clinging to old ways, to prejudices that have no place in this world. But I believe that love and family are more important than anything else. And that's what I found with Sarah, Lily, and Rose. They are my family now, and I will protect them with my life." He challenged them. "What kind of town are you? What kind of people are you? Are you going to let fear and hatred consume you? Or are you going to open your hearts and accept those who are different?" His words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. He knew that he hadn't changed everyone's minds, but he hoped that he had planted a seed of doubt, a spark of understanding. He had stood firm, defending his beliefs, and that was all that mattered. He turned and rode away, leaving the townspeople to grapple with his words. The future remained uncertain, but he had spoken his truth, and he would not back down. His commitment to love and acceptance was unwavering. The idea came to Rose one evening as they were sitting around the fire, mending clothes and sharing stories. She had been sketching in her notebook, capturing the faces of her new family. "We should have a wedding," she said suddenly, her voice quiet but firm. Peter looked at her, surprised. "A wedding? Who's getting married?" Rose smiled. "Not a real wedding, not exactly, but a ceremony, a celebration of our family. A way to show the town that we're not ashamed of who we are, that we're proud to be together." Sarah and Lily nodded in agreement. They understood what Rose was suggesting. It was a way to defy the town's judgment, to declare their unity and resilience. Peter considered the idea. It was a bold move, one that would undoubtedly provoke the townspeople. But he also saw the power in it. It was a way to reclaim their dignity, to assert their right to be happy, to be a family. "I think it's a wonderful idea," he said, his eyes filled with pride. "But are you sure you're ready for that kind of attention?" The girls exchanged glances. They knew it wouldn't be easy. They would face ridicule, scorn, and perhaps even violence. But they were tired of hiding. They were tired of being ashamed. They wanted to show the world that they were strong, that they were united, that they were a family. "We're ready," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. And so, they began to plan their ceremony. They didn't have much money, but they made do with what they had. They sewed new dresses from scraps of fabric, decorated the barn with wildflowers, and prepared a simple feast. They invited no one from Harmony Gulch, knowing that they would not be welcome. But they invited a few friendly neighbors from nearby ranches, people who had shown them kindness and support. On the day of the ceremony, the sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the ranch. The barn was transformed into a beautiful space, filled with flowers, laughter, and love. Peter, Caleb, and Ethan dressed in their finest clothes, their faces beaming with pride. Sarah, Lily, and Rose looked radiant in their homemade dresses, their eyes shining with hope and joy. They stood together, hand in hand, as Peter spoke, his voice filled with emotion. "We are here today," he said, "not to celebrate a marriage, but to celebrate a family. A family that has been forged in the fires of adversity, a family that is bound together by love, respect, and understanding." He looked at the girls, his heart swelling with affection. "These women are not outcasts. They're not sinners. They're not property. They're my daughters, my sisters, my friends, and I am proud to stand beside them." The ceremony was simple but powerful. It was a declaration of love, a symbol of unity, and a defiance of judgment. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of compassion, and the enduring importance of family. The wedding was not about marriage, but about family. Years passed. The ranch thrived, a testament to the hard work and love that had been poured into it. The scars of the battle slowly faded, replaced by new growth and renewed hope. Sarah, Lily, and Rose blossomed into strong, confident women, each finding their own path in life. Sarah became a skilled rancher, working alongside Caleb, her bond with him deepening with each passing year. They shared a quiet understanding, a connection forged in the fires of adversity. Lily, under Ethan's gentle guidance, discovered a passion for teaching. She started a small schoolhouse on the ranch, educating the children of neighboring families. Her kindness and patience touched the lives of many, transforming her from a timid girl into a confident and compassionate woman. Rose continued to draw, her talent blossoming with each passing year. She captured the beauty of the landscape, the warmth of her family, and the resilience of the human spirit. Her artwork gained recognition, bringing joy and inspiration to those who saw it. Harmony Gulch slowly began to change. The prejudices that had once consumed the town began to fade, replaced by a grudging respect for Peter and his family. The younger generation, inspired by Lily's teaching and Rose's art, started to question the old ways. One day, Peter rode into Harmony Gulch to buy supplies. He entered the general store, the same store where Jedediah had once refused to serve him. Behind the counter stood Jedediah's son, a young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked, his voice polite and respectful. Peter nodded. "I need some flour, sugar, and coffee," he said. The young man gathered the supplies, his movements efficient and friendly. As he rang up the order, he looked at Peter, his expression sincere. "My father. He wasn't always a good man," he said quietly. "But I think he came to regret his actions. He never spoke of you or the girls, but I could see it in his eyes." He paused, then offered a small, hesitant smile. "Thank you," he said, "for showing us that there's a better way." Peter smiled back, his heart filled with hope. "You're welcome," he said. As he rode back to the ranch, the setting sun painting the sky in vibrant hues, Peter felt a sense of peace wash over him. The challenges they had faced had been immense, but they had overcome them together. They had built a life filled with love, respect, and belonging. They had created a family that transcended societal norms and defied prejudice. They had embraced a new life, stronger than ever, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The ranch stood as a beacon of hope, a symbol of what could be achieved when people opened their hearts and embraced the possibility of love.